Good morning, good afternoon, everybody, wherever you are, whatever time you happen to be listening. I'm excited to have you here and to welcome to the show my friend and mentor and everything, Louise H Reid. I can't even tell you how excited I am to be having this conversation. What people don't know is that we've been talking forever before we even started recording. But I know we have so much more to cover because this is how every conversation goes with you and me. So thank you for being here. Thank you for giving me your morning.
Absolutely. I love it. I love what happens when we get together and connect.
So Louise and I met on LinkedIn. I don't know, like a couple of years ago. I think it was actually Amy Perkins that brought us together.
Oh.
I think that was where the initial connection was made. And then it's just kind of flourished from there, which is crazy. So for the insurance people that are listening, she is not in insurance, but she is a powerhouse in the coaching and consulting community, and also is amazing at organizing book clubs, which is where our friendship really started to form. Was Think and Grow Rich our first study?
Sure was.
Yes.
It sure was.
Yes. So we shared so much life during that time, and it just has never slowed down, I don't think.
So it hasn't at all. I think what was remarkable, there's so many remarkable things about that. But I remember, and I know I said it to you, I don't know when, but I remember thinking right away and saying it later on, once our friendship had developed a bit more, but you are this spark. Like you are just this gem and this light. And before we started recording this particular podcast, I said to you that I feel like our hearts saw and recognized each other's hearts. And that's what, so that connection is really something special and something that just can't be created. It just happens.
Yeah.
Right? And just we continue to nurture it. I love it.
We couldn't have manufactured this. And here's there's so much, oh my gosh, I can't even. So I think it was probably, we had been friends for a while when we discovered that we shared a birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because you had posted a picture of you having a celebratory glass of wine. And I was like, wait, is it your birthday? And it was also my birthday. So I think that's a fun connection.
It was. You FaceTimed me. You were on vacation.
Yes.
And you FaceTimed me. Yes.
So yeah, it's just like, I feel like there's so many crazy connection points between the two of us, between our universes. I guess that's accurate, right? But also part of the reason I wanted to bring you on the show, so many reasons, because I think you're full of wisdom, but also part of my show is highlighting amazing women. And I did not realize how important that was and how possible it was until you became part of my life. And, with your passion in life, your works, your dedication to this about empowering women, helping them understand and see and really stand confidently in their potential. This was the beginning of our relationship, and I continue to learn from you every single time. I don't even care if it's a 5-minute text exchange. I am learning something about myself every single time. And I think every woman needs that person in their life.
You have just given me the best compliment I could get. I mean, that's what it is. It's so true when you finally, which takes time in one's life to figure out what you're meant to be here to do. It's not something that you can just write out on your to-do list. It's like, today I'm going to cut the grass. I'm going to do laundry, and I'm going to discover my purpose.
Yeah.
Doesn't work like that. And, through a series of life events and amazing people that I've had in my own life, I came to discover that that's what it is. And every day, if I'm able to have that kind of connection with someone that makes them feel seen, heard, and allow another woman to see and step into their power, mm-hmm. even in the smallest of ways. Because that's how it shows up. It shows up in the smallest of ways, consistently done, day after day.
Yeah.
That's what a woman owning and stepping into her power really looks like.
Yeah. And I can't even, it's so funny because it's hard for me to even think back to like life before you were part of my, my mindset. Like, you changed the way that I looked at myself and my potential so much. And I think that after I started to have those interactions with you, either through book club or just the conversations that we were having, I started to like feel that like that pull for something bigger in my life. And I feel like that's it. It was inspired so much by everything that I learned from you. And then taking those 8 weeks of coaching from you, I still go back to those workbooks. Like, I have kept them. And then what was the other thing? Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to pull it out. But like when you had sent out that like 2019 review, like questions to ask yourself and walk through, and you guys walked through it on the show, you and Jay did. And that was powerful for me to reflect on how far I've come. Like, there were some stumbles, but just to really take stock of all of that, it's like, there are points in life, and I think that I have stood still a lot of times, and sometimes you need that, and sometimes it's fear that has kept me there. But doing that exercise and really looking at progress, it was just amazing. Oh my gosh. And I want this, like you live this out every single day. It's about helping people just move one step forward. It's so incredibly empowering. And the more you do it, I don't want to say the easier it gets, but I think the more resilient you become in that journey.
I think you do. And you start to realize that the path forward isn't easy and that that's normal and to be expected. So there's this expression, and know you'll have heard it. And I guess I like the sentiment of it, but I don't know why it frustrates me, but get comfortable being uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. You never get comfortable with it, but it's like, oh, there it is. And I know what this means. And so there's just a level of, it becomes there's a normalcy sort of associated with that feeling, as opposed to making it you scared and run and hide and stay small.
Yeah. And I think it's like you become more aware, right? You recognize it and you go, okay, so why am I feeling this? It's really like having that mindset of knowing like, I'm uncomfortable, but why? And like being curious, digging in deeper. And these are all things that I have picked up either directly from you or because you connected me with a message that you knew that I needed to hear. And this is just, it's crazy because, and I know we said this before we got on the call, I feel like you have been part of my life forever. Like, it's hard for me when I say it's only been a couple of years. I'm like, has it been, or has it been like, like, really?
You know, it's fascinating. Relationships of all sorts are fascinating, whether it's with clients, whether it's with friends, co-workers. The passage of time doesn't always represent the value that you get from a thing or a person.
Yes.
At all. But I think it shocks us when we are faced with that reality at times.
Yeah.
Both it can be shocking in a good way, and then sometimes it can be really shocking in a bad way. You know, I was married for 25 years, and a lot of great things came from that. But then they're like, oh my gosh, it's been 25 years, and what have I got for that? It goes both ways.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of marriage and engagements and all of that fun stuff, I know of your family, and of Jay especially, whom I love and appreciate, and he was sharing all sorts of bits of wisdom before we hopped on I guess formally hit record. But tell us a little bit about your family.
Oh, my family. So my family that I have right now versus my extended family, because there's 28 of us, so that would be way too long to kind of talk about that. I have been with certainly like my soul partner for 5 years now. We just celebrated our 5th anniversary a couple of days ago. And together we have the 4 boys that I knew I would always have. Well, I didn't think I'd have 4 boys. I knew I had 4 kids. I didn't know how that would come to me. And so I have 3 of my own biologically, and I have a stepson. And it's just, you know, it's it's everything. It's not what I planned, but it's everything that I need.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I'm going to be talking in quotes and cheesy cliches as time goes on. You know, there's so
No,
much.
I love that this is the world that we live in. So do we share this? This is my favorite thing. I love it.
Yeah. And there's a reason why there's, you know, the cliches are there, because there's a kind of a grain of truth. The other thing I will say about quotes and cliches, despite the fact that I love them, I slaughter them almost every time.
That's okay. I have to write them down verbatim, or I don't remember them.
So that's my family in its like simplest kind of form. And it is, I have two core values, and family is one of them, family and freedom. Yeah. And so I choose all my life decisions now are based on that. And it makes life so much simpler. I'm looking for simple, I'm looking for ease, I'm looking for love. And that's what I build my life around.
I love it. I love it. I still have not, oh my gosh, I don't think I narrowed down to 2 core values after we did Dare to Lead.
Well, I was mad when someone told me 5 was too many. I honestly was. I was like, what are you talking about? And I resisted narrowing it down. I really did.
Yeah.
And then I have learned, you know, I've got this nagging voice I've named Sally, who gets really loud at times. And so she was sort of talking that whole idea down of narrowing it down to 2. And then I questioned why I was resisting, you know, and so I thought, well, what's the harm in trying to narrow it down? And I just feel like there's layers like to everything, including your values. It doesn't mean that other things that are not those core most values are unimportant. It's not one or the other. It's not important or unimportant. It's all layered. So if you just think about the innermost core, and then there's some other layers, it's like friends. You've got some super, super, super close friends that you'd hold tight. And then you've got another ring, which is still really great people in your life. I feel like your values can be kind of like that. And so getting super clear on what my own values have made so many more professional decisions, friendship, like relationship decisions, financial decisions, so much easier.
Yeah.
One of them being something that you reminded me of, was it the beginning of COVID? So about financials.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I got my stuff in order that had been out of order for 5 years from a financial perspective.
Yeah.
And when this COVID situation occurred, you reminded me, like, wow, you know, what great foresight you had to take care of that. I wish I'd had, you know, the foresight, but I couldn't claim it was. But it really did. It really was good timing that I got all of that in order, so that things were a little less scary on the financial front. So when I say freedom, it's freedom in all sorts, including financial freedom, right? Yeah. So getting clear, I went a few different tangents, but boiling it down to the clarity that 2 values can bring you, that's an example of how it can affect the choices and the decisions that you make in your life around what's of core most importance.
Yeah, and I need to work on that, because I think that I probably left that list with 6 or 7 on it.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
The process.
As you're talking through this, it's like that whole idea of us being like binary beings, which we're not. Nothing in our lives is binary.
Nope.
It's like there's layers, there's levels. I don't want to say we live, but I think we do. We live life in the gray. Like there's so much that goes into making up who we are that we can't create those black and white. Yeah. So saying that family and freedom are your values doesn't mean that you don't value kindness and compassion and empathy. Like, I think it can, like for me, that's where my reapproach has to come from when it comes to boiling those down a little bit.
Yeah. And I think the meaning comes in, you could have the same values as me, but when we were to start talking about why and how they show up, it could sound very different.
Yeah.
And so it's like layered in that are things like the other things that you hold true and near dear to your heart about how you show up in alignment with those values. Like it just, yeah. Anyway, I feel like we could I'm talking a bit.
I know. We could talk forever about anything. I'm not. I think that after people listen to like the show I did with you and your show with me, most likely somebody's going to offer us a show, like our own.
Right? I think so. I think that's what's next, like 2021.
Yes, for sure.
What would we call it?
I mean, it'd be like the badass broadcast or something like that.
Oh, I like that. And we wear our badass t-shirts.
Yes.
Our badass and beautiful t-shirts.
Yes.
Of course.
Swag all around. So, in terms of like what you do for work every day and empowering women, empowering leaders, helping them just be, I don't know, is it a combination of like self-awareness and like, what is it? How did you arrive here? How did you like develop this whole, your coaching concepts? It was new to me. It was so different from anything that I had experienced before. So how did you like come to this understanding that this was your platform and this is what you were going to help build in other people?
It's a really, really great question. And it might be great news for some people and it might be frustrating. My answer might be frustrating for others because this too has been multi-layered. I grew up a very, very focused, dedicated, fun-loving person, but I was very, very driven. I played competitive sports. I was eating meals in the car, going from one activity to the next. And I loved it. I thrived on it. Very, very achievement-oriented. Loved all the people in my life big. I was extremely achievement-oriented. And so as I went through my life, that didn't change, and the fulfillment piece fell to the side as achievement reigned supreme. So, getting the job to pay off the student loans after I finished university and continuing to climb the quote unquote corporate ladder, not recognizing as I do now that I think careers are more like a jungle gym than they are a ladder. But it takes a series of things, both amazing and catastrophic, or did in my life, to create realizations and learnings that not all doors that I was banging down were meant for me.
Yeah.
And so it took some hard knocks. It took some battles. It took some bruises. It took my sister having a bone marrow transplant and almost dying. It took my best mentor and boss, who at 36 passed away from the very thing that saved my sister's life 15 years prior. And it took a devastating situation to occur in my marriage, which I'm actually not even legally allowed to talk about, for me to finally piece together, pause, to stop the achieving, to pause on the achieving just for a moment, and to reflect on who I was and how I became what I became, how I could keep the good, what I needed to discard, and what I needed to add in order to be blossom into the human being that I wanted to be in this world. And so all that to say, it was in that pause that I looked back and reflected on. At that time, it would have been about 15 years experience in human resources, the things that I'd totally rocked, the things that I'd flopped, the things that I'd loved, the things that I'd loathed. That loathe list was really long. Why certain leaders had been great for me, why certain leaders hadn't. And then my own personal growth and journey through having the marriage that I'd had, the lessons that I'd learned, a child who'd had, one of my twins had serious learning difficulties that were very, very difficult in his early years. He was holding knives to his throat at 6, saying he wanted to be dead. And then me having a breakdown and having to see a therapist who has been a light in my life. All of those pieces have learnings, but you do not get the learnings if you don't take the time to pause and reflect. So all of those tools, which I'd garnered through being a corporate coach, through my own life as, living through what I had, I put them all in a blender, so to speak. And when I identified my own values and my own purpose, my definition of success and who I wanted to be in this world, this is honestly what came out. It was like, I cannot see any more women walking around on the treadmill of life. I saw soulless women, and it hurt my heart. And so I learned that the things that hurt my heart are the things that I need to mend in the world. And so that came to the coaching for women. I see leaders in workplaces who are causing harm to those under their leadership, and that hurts my heart. And so that's how I came to do leadership consulting. And then my podcast is just because it's so freaking fun.
Yes. Which I mean, I love it. And you say it throughout the podcast. And so I'm always like, oh, I got to like rewind and like write down, but you're like, ooh, that's a nugget. And I'm like, woo. I need to re-listen to that. But yeah, so I was lucky enough to go through 8 weeks with you and really just, I think, dig through stuff that I had ignored for a long time. And some of it was more revealing than other parts of it, but I think it was, I think the things that were most revealing were the things that needed to transform the most.
Yeah.
It was like the time, like when you're like, I would be writing and then I would be like, I got to step away for a minute. And I knew that there was something there. And I just think it's so important, as we talk about like empowering women, helping them understand and really just be willing to, I think, seek, I don't even know, like really take that time, that pause, that reflection, like what do I want? What does real potential look like? Not selling ourselves short or saying this is the way the world works. This is the way the company has always run, whatever that is. I think giving just little glimmers of clarity, then it just continues to build, right? Like it's almost like a tumbleweed or a snowball, because we live in cold environments. We understand what snowballs are.
Let's go with tumbleweed. It is May.
Yes.
Let's go with that.
Yeah. So I feel like it just continues to grow. At least that's how it was for me. And just really being able to identify certain aspects in my life where I wasn't necessarily really being in tune with myself the way that I needed to be. And I think it's incredibly powerful if you're willing to take some time out and really do that. And so it was really part of my morning routine.
Wow.
Those 8 weeks. And now even since then, when I'm really in the habit, it is such an important part of what I do, that reflection piece. And usually I'm reflecting on the day before, but still like, where did things feel off? Like, where was I not really being true to who I am or where I want to be in my life? And so the
reflection piece is critical, and it doesn't even have to be that soulful or deep for it to be necessary. I believe it's necessary for every human being who wants to be somewhere where they are not right now. Reflection is a key part of that. I do reflection at the end of every day, at the end of every week, and at the end of every month. And the questions are a little bit different.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're hugely revealing, sometimes not so much. You're not going to have an awakening every single day.
Right.
Exhausting.
Yeah.
No. And the reality is that sometimes you want to pause from that. And that too is okay.
Yeah.
But here's another quote, if you want something that you've never had, you've got to do something you've never done. Again, I'm slaughtered it. But you know what I'm saying.
I think it was pretty close.
In my head, it's like, I've got it nailed. And then I start to speak it. I'm like, oh man, I'm doing it again.
Are you good at telling jokes, or do you miss the punchline?
I don't even try.
You don't?
I'm just not, it's not my strengths. My strengths are elsewhere.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's fair. But I think you're a funny person too. You don't need any written jokes. You can come up with your own.
That's nice that you say that. We'll go with that.
Well, I feel like we either have nonstop laughter or nonstop tears, or a combination of both every time we
true.
spend time together. Which, here's what I think, we've never met in person.
I know.
Soon, hopefully. Like, we're all gonna like get to move about into different countries, maybe even.
And hug people who don't live in our home.
Yes. Yes. I'm so looking forward to this. Like, I'm just gonna hug strangers. I will ask them if they're okay with it first.
I know. I have told numerous people to be ready for the hugs. Like, I love hugs.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been tough.
Yeah. I think it's one thing, like, obviously, like, we've had this crazy connection since our planets intersected, but I do look forward to, like, that first time we see each other in person. There's gonna be fireworks, Louise.
I agree. I totally agree. It's like when I met my partner Jay, it's going to be that on obviously the friend.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've not had this kind of connection with someone before. I shouldn't say a lot. I have many acquaintances, and I've got a handful of super awesome people and friends in my life and supporters, both in, the professional world and my personal life. But I've never quite had this sort of connection with someone. Jay was saying that to me before we hit record for real for this show. He was saying that to me.
And isn't it's so interesting, because it was obviously like, we became friends long before this, pandemic lifestyle that we're all in right now. But just like the importance of having support in your life, the importance of having a tribe, and like knowing that looks different for everybody. So I think that sometimes women can feel isolated in this. It's hard. There's the scale of vulnerability in building a tribe is huge. Now, I will point out that I have never been concerned about sharing something with you and that trust being broken, which again, just speaks to the level of connection that we have. But when it comes to women trying to build that tribe, build those relationships within or without of their industry or whatever it is that they do every day, like, what kind of advice would you give women that are in that position right now? Because I think it's scary before you take that first step.
It is. It is. I think, like with anything, whether it's searching for your tribe, whether it's developing something in yourself, it is just taking a pause to understand what it is that you're seeking. What is it that you're seeking, and why? Because otherwise you might start seeking the wrong kind of person or the wrong kind of support. But without going too deep into it and to make it a little more sort of tangible and tactical, I think using, like, thankfully we've got amazing online resources now, like LinkedIn. One that I send every single woman to who I do training with, who I'm fortunate enough to do training with or coach, is Lean In. So leanin.org has a tremendous community of women. They're called Lean In Circles. I have held run a number of Lean In Circles myself. And Lean In Circles are created for women, by women, to create not only connection, but also a learning opportunity so that women can develop more skills, more confidence, more power, and more ability to level up in their own life and in their professional world as well. And so I would say, don't give up. If you've not found that tribe yet, do not give up. They are out there. We are out there. We really are.
Yeah.
And so it takes just finding one. So I feel like instead of looking for your tribe, because that's like, oh my God, that seems really like kind of overwhelming. Yeah. Seek out a person.
When do you call them a tribe?
Right. Seek out a person. And if you don't know where to go or what to do, I would say just start Googling, start listening to podcasts, start following people who resonate with you. start commenting on people's posts on LinkedIn, and you'll start to see more of that goodness in your feed. Get rid of the noise and clutter that is causing any kind of negativity in your life. So Facebook, if you've got things coming up in your Facebook, get rid of that feed, because that kind of negative news feed feeds the wrong part of your brain, right? If you've got a good wolf and a bad wolf inside of your brain, there's a really wonderful and beautiful Aboriginal story around this. And again, I'm kind of messing it up. But essentially, it was a young boy asked his grandfather about are people good or are people bad? And the grandfather said something like, we all have a good wolf and a bad wolf inside of us. And the little boy asked, well, which one wins? He said, whichever one you feed.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like in order to find your first of all, your person, and then your tribe, you have to filter out some of the noise that's causing you, that's preventing you from being able to see that joy and that light. And you start filtering that out, and it makes room for the brightness.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, it's like we can choose to become slaves to distraction in all aspects of our life. And I think that then if you're a slave to distraction, you're not feeding the good stuff in your life either, or at least not with the level of intention and consistency that you should be.
When you're allowing yourself to be distracted, there's no intention in distraction.
Right. And isn't it, it's so funny that you bring that up. My gosh, I feel like I should. It's a good thing we're recording this, because I'm going to need to write that down later. Oh my gosh. So it's like, it's that whole idea of staying in the work.
Oh, that sounds like a Brene thing.
I know, but I can tell you, like, it has been said to me over the last few weeks of starting a new job and learning all sorts of new things, and like staying in the work. Like it's crazy, because like, yeah, consistency or distractions will kill consistency every single time.
Unless you're consistently distracted.
Well, yes. Yeah. It's like the whole change is the only constant thing.
Right.
Which I say it and I get mad that I say it. But I have my sayings that I just drive me crazy. But
remember that.
But yeah, like this whole, I have found that when I do focus in and I feed the right part of my brain that says, yes, this is possible. Yes, you can do this. Yes, that person loves you and wants to share in whatever burden it is that you're carrying, or they want to help you out. Like, you can choose what it is that you're going to feed. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and I know you do this as well. But I'm very regimented in how I show up each morning.
Mm-hmm.
A great day does not happen by accident.
Right.
Setting my day up for success does not mean that I nail it every day. It does not mean that every day is a masterpiece. But I can guarantee you, every single time I have like a total rock star day, it's because I set it up that way.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think me creating that morning routine has been one of the biggest game changers. And I remember, so I wasn't really good about it. And then when we started coaching, it was like you said, well, when are you going to put this in your day? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I'm going to have pretty busy days and da, 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 da. But it was, for me, it was first thing in the morning. And it was powerful in that it helped me like create a mindset right away as I was, getting out of bed and journaling and reading and doing all of that stuff. So for me, it was important. And I think it looks different for other people, but that's when it was important for me. And it has remained part of my morning practice.
I love hearing that. And if you Google, successful people and morning routine, the kind of elements that contribute to people's successful people's days. I'm getting all my words all jumbled up here, which isn't that great for a podcast. I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone who is super successful, however you want to define success, that's a whole other topic. But super successful people who have not started their day with some kind of routine.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be, to your point, it looks different for different people, but something that sets their day up for motion in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's where, for me, that's the launching pad of momentum for the day.
Oh, that's a good one. Nice, Olivia. Launching pad.
I stole it from something that you said before.
That's good. That's good.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So it's so, and I can tell when I miss it, like for whatever reason, whether I have to like travel super early in the morning, like I am that girl on a plane at 6 a.m., like journaling, going, I have no idea if the person next to me is like spying on whatever I'm writing, but I also don't care. Like I need to process through this stuff.
Yeah. And I think it's super important for so many reasons. It's become more evident how important it is to me the longer I do it.
Mm-hmm.
I recently took on a longer contract than I normally do take on, and it's involved me pre-COVID having to take public transportation again, which has been a nightmare. Again, that's a whole other discussion. But in my 1.5 hour commute on public transit in the mornings, I've realized if I want to show up at work as my best self, which who doesn't, we want to be our best self all days, right? Some days we're more successful than others at doing that, but that's usually our goal. It's like, how do I need to conduct, like, what do I need to do on my morning commute so that I can show up as my best self? So that when I sit down at my desk, I don't feel like my day is half done.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually have the same vigor and energy and enthusiasm and zest and positivity that I woke up with. And man, that is not easy to do. I have to meditate because I also get car sick on the bus.
Mm.
So whatever, we all have reasons and excuses why we might not do the things.
Right.
So I had to find something that really worked for me, but that's what being intentional about creating a successful life looks like. Right? It's little decisions consistently, like right decisions, aligned actions done consistently over time that add up to big miracles. It doesn't just, happen one day.
Right.
Unless you win the lottery, but really we know the statistics on that. That's not how successful people create success.
Yeah. And for me, there's 3 things that happen in this process. I clear debris, like just that crap that's floating around in my head, that will, if I don't take care of it, it will come back up later in the day.
Yeah.
It helps me, like, it's always part of the journaling is focused on gratitude. So I feel like that's like regrounding for me. And sometimes it's just silly stuff. Like I did not spill coffee on myself as I was, walking up the stairs from the kitchen. It can be like really silly stuff, but at the same time, the days that I do spill coffee on myself, I'm not grateful for not spilling coffee.
Mm-hmm.
And then like just setting my intentions for the day.
I want to ask you, how do you set intentions? Because I'm curious.
So
I'll try not to coach you here.
Yes. So some of it is just like, how do I want to be with my kids today? So like right now, obviously life is just so different. So it's just like, I want them to get out of bed. I want to know that they're fed. And I want to know that they've spent a couple of hours on homework. And I'm not going to micromanage them, but I just like, these are the things that I need to make sure are taken care of for my kids. Food, I don't even care if they're dressed. So I'm not even at clothing. I'm not even at food. I know they have shelter. So I'm making sure that their basic needs are taken care of and that they know where I am and what my schedule is for the day. But also knowing what it is that I want to get done for work in the day and knowing that I'm going to hit, it's like that whole 80-20 rule. Like I'm maybe going to get 80% of it done, but I need to know before I actually start working what I need to do that day. Otherwise I'm just, oh yeah, you're just like pulling stuff out of thin air, hoping that it all comes together. So yeah, that's kind of the process that I run through. I make notes in my planner. I obviously journal and and I go back to notes from the day before, but that's like part of my whole process. And the kids have a color-coded calendar.
Of course they do. Well, with multiple kids, it's hard to manage. There's a lot.
Yeah.
Have you ever asked yourself, how do I want to feel today? What are my intentions for how I want to feel?
No.
That's how I use intentions personally.
Yeah.
Because my to-do list for work happens. That's going to happen. Now, for some people, maybe it doesn't. And so the intentions might need to include that.
Yeah.
Many of us have a to-do list and can prioritize, whether you use Stephen Covey's like 4 quadrant, model, whatever, have some way of prioritizing. But I learned that I was doing all the things, but not feeling the way I wanted to feel. So what was missing? So I've learned that I want to feel ease. Often I want to feel ease. And my own coach, and I said this to you yesterday, I think when we were texting, my own coach said to me, how do you keep moving forward while staying still?
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it's that while I race through my day and while I do all the things, how can I sort of have some more, how can I find inner peace? How can I find inner ease? So I want to feel ease. I want to feel laughter, and I want to feel love. And that changes then how I do the things. It doesn't always change what I do, but it changes how I do them.
Oh, I love that. I have never thought about that.
So I learned that from someone. So there you go. I'm sharing that with you.
It makes total sense.
Right?
Because we can do all of the things and not feel great about all the things.
Hello, that was me at 40, right? Like I said, did all the things. I had an Instagram-worthy life.
Yeah.
It didn't feel the way I wanted to feel.
Oh my gosh.
Right?
Louise, this is... I don't want to say it's crushing me, but it's like, it's blowing my mind.
Let's go with blowing your mind.
Yes, it's blowing my mind. This is, wow. How do I want to feel? I'm gonna have to ponder this after we get done. And every morning now, from now on, it's getting added to the top of every page in my journal now, so that I remember.
Yeah, I spend 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night with my journal. Sometimes it's longer when I feel like I have a lot to say.
Yeah,
but I keep it, and I keep it like that because then there's no expectation, there's no pressure to have to do more.
Yeah.
So when I have an hour, I love it. But who does not have 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes at night to be able to say, these are my intentions for the day. This is what I'm grateful for. This is what a great day looks like. If these three things happen, I've rocked today.
Yeah.
How do I want to feel today? Some affirmations. And I also have a not to-do list.
Is it the same every day?
It has been for a while. I'm not really good at it. I'm getting better. It's not drinking wine during the week.
Oh.
Because I've found that when I'm really leveling up, even having 1 or 2 glasses of wine, it's a subtle difference that I notice the next day. Super, super subtle. But once people get to a certain level of achievement.
Exact same way.
Yeah, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I find that once people get to a certain level of achievement, a certain level of career success, it's not big things that make a difference. It's small tweaks that make the big difference. Yeah. And so that's where I'm really happy with the success that I've achieved in my life. Other people might look at it and think, well, that's not really successful. But in my mind, based on where I want to be and how I want to show up, I'm really thrilled with the success that I've achieved so far. Got lots more that I want to do, but I'm really satisfied. So that's where I'm saying that I'm looking for these little tweaks that will help me be the best version of me. If I'm wanting to make that impact when I show up for women and leaders that I'm coaching or consulting with, I need to not have wine the night before.
Yeah. I have felt the same way because it's so easy. It's so accessible in my life right now.
Right? And I'm not happy about it.
Does Sunday count?
Okay, so this is what I do.
I need to know.
So this is, there's the sort of the aspiration and the why behind it. And then the realness is that I drink on It sounds awful. On Friday and Saturday. And then not Sunday, although today's Sunday. It's a really sunny day. It's going to be, so I'm not sure. So check in with me later today.
This is where I'm at too.
and then one day midweek.
Okay.
And I'm not looking to tie one on. I'm not looking to have a whole bottle of wine.
Yeah.
I may get to a point in my life at a different stage where I am, where it doesn't impact me the same way. But for whatever reason right now, where I am, I can tell that it makes a subtle enough difference that I don't want that in my life. So I'm not willing to part with it altogether because I enjoy it. I do it socially. I do it, we live in that kind of culture where if we are able, obviously I'm not talking about having a problem with alcohol because clearly that calls for some different actions. And so, I enjoy wine with those that I like to socialize with. So I don't want to get rid of it, but I've had to find a different way to adapt. So that not to-do list can be really helpful. For some other people, it might be not, depending if they have poor sleep, they don't sleep very well. It might be, I'm not going on devices after 8 p.m.
Yeah.
It could be, I'm not having coffee afternoon, after like 12 o'clock noon, depending on, right? So whatever that is, it creates this kind of list when it's super, super short and like really to the point, just creates focus and intention. It's not meant to make you feel crappy at the end of the day when you've not done it, but you can't do better when you don't have the awareness that where you want to be better.
Yeah. So as you're talking about this, Louise, I am thinking about, and I think we've talked about this, maybe not directly in these terms, but like being in tune with that inner voice.
Yeah.
And I wish that I could tell people how to do that. I feel like I'm learning so much, trusting my gut, trusting my instincts, being in tune with when something doesn't settle right with me. And then also feeling like it's okay for me to do something about that. And sometimes inaction is the right thing, but really understanding what it means to really advocate for myself.
Oh, that's huge.
It's, and I think that if I had to pick one wish for every woman that I know and every person, but I think that it's harder for women because that's what we thrive on instinct, but then we start doubting our instincts. So like, how do we move past that?
It's a big question and a great question. I think that like with everything that we're talking about, it's not a switch.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just one thing that you learn one day, or you read in a book, or you learn how to do like this math concept, and all of a sudden then you know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It too is layered. And I find that in all of the people that I work with, again, because it's high achieving women, or in the workplaces, it's both genders, but I have a bend for high achieving women. They want me to tell them the steps, and then they'll just do the steps, and then they'll know the answer, and then it's clear. It isn't that. And so with that said, it still is a step, it still is a process, but it's going to be a little different for everyone. The time it takes for individuals is going to be vastly different. But the very, very, very first step, and I always, this often is an action that my clients walk away with, and they think that's it, that's my only action. I'm like, yes, that's all you have to do for a week. This is it. And that is start listening to her. Notice her. That's it. Notice her. It's that voice that starts to say, oh, I don't think you can do that. It's that voice that says in a meeting, I wouldn't ask that question if I were you. It's going to sound really stupid. Or this idea about, or the solution that, you're thinking about, oh, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't put your neck out like that. It's that voice that once you start hearing her, you realize that she's always with you, and it's not a bad thing. It's part of us.
Yeah.
That is the essence actually of who we kind of are. It's our instinct speaking to us. Some people might not hear it in a voice as much. Like I hear the voice.
Yeah.
Mine's very, very, very loud. Some people have more of a feeling associated with it. And so the first step is really getting in tune with when she speaks, what she says, why she says it. So that's the first thing, right? And until you have that kind of awareness, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
There's no changing that. But then, once you recognize it, you can reframe it, and then you can rephrase it. So it's recognize, reframe, rephrase.
Yes. And now I'm remembering our conversation where it was like, you were like, I just want you to be aware of when it's happening. And then you can move on to that next step where it's like, now what's going on around you when this happens? Like, are there triggers, or like, are there certain things that are kind of setting this off? Are there situations that you're finding yourself in regularly? Whatever that, and it's going to be different for everybody, but yeah, it's like, man, we start to just like tune it out or shut it down, it's such a dangerous thing.
It is. And I think sadly we do this to our children. And this isn't meant as I've got children too, and I'll have done everything with best of intentions, and no doubt they'll end up in therapy as well. But I think, we tell our kids things like, and some won't do this, but variations of, to go and hug someone because it's their family member, and the children don't want to. Like, everything in them is saying, no, I'm not comfortable. Mm-hmm. And we feel that we will look bad as a parent or something if our kid doesn't do the right thing, goes to hug aunt so-and-so or uncle so-and-so. And so really from a young age, in really small ways, we start to teach our kids not to follow their own instinct.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, it is. And so again, I say that not from a blaming point of view at all, more from an awareness of this goes back. This is the way that we have been, sort of our brain has been wired to do this. So it's going to take a lot of intention, and it just take a lot of intention to retrain our brain. Our brain is 2% of our mass, but takes 20% of our body's energy, which I think is fascinating.
Yeah.
Our brain is always looking for short circuits, right? For shortcuts.
Yep. Because
it saves energy.
Yep.
So our old patterns of thinking happen automatically. We know that, right? Well, how did you get to work today? And you're like, I have no idea. Like,
yeah.
Right? And then you go a different route. All of a sudden, it takes more energy. It literally takes more energy. More of your brain then has to use the calories that you've ingested to do the thing. So likewise, doing any thinking differently and choosing to have different thought patterns is going to take intention, thought, and energy.
Yeah. Oh, but it's so important.
Oh my gosh. Thoughts become things.
Yep. Yeah. So you work primarily with high achieving women, but really anybody, any woman that is like, I need to be part of this. And I think that every woman needs to be part of it, or whatever coach, they connect with. You were mine, and you will be mine forever, whether you know it or not. But how do we help? And obviously this is like your life's work. Like this is what you've done for so many people, and especially for me. But how do we help women find their way and like really promote more leadership among females? And, how do we, like, I think of it as like clearing the path, but you may have a completely different take on that. But I feel like, how do we empower women to just get there?
It's a huge question. It's a huge question with, I feel like this is the theme of the day, a complicated answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think there are a variety of things that we need to do on an individual level, on an organizational level, at a community level, at a legislative level. all of those levels require work, because we have to be clear that there are systemic issues at play here. So recognizing that stuff has to happen at all those layers, let's just maybe talk at the individual level about how you and I, as women who care about other women, can make a difference. One is look inside your four walls. Who is inside your home? And who do you have the most influence over? For me, I've taken the full responsibility of raising boys that I'm proud that are feminists.
Yeah.
I see that as my job. This is not just about empowering women. This is changing the mindsets of all of those who we have the opportunity to, one conversation at a time. That's how we're going to help move the needle forward for creating more of an environment that allows women, girls now and women as well, to rise. We look beside us, we look around us in all other areas of our life. So leave your house when you can, when we're allowed to after COVID. Who is in your circle? What boys, girls, men, and women are in your sphere of influence? And meet them where they're at. It's taken me so long, and I still really struggle with meeting people where they're at, because I'm so fed up that we're still having this conversation in 2020.
Yeah.
But how being frustrated and irritable and kind of crusty in my communication, how effective is that going to be? Not very. I've also learned that some days are not my days to be talking about it, because that's how I know I'm going to show up. Because I've also realized it's okay for me to feel that way too.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous that we are still where we are. But that's not going to get us, that attitude and mindset is not going to get us to where we need to be. So it's also, for me, involves when I see those sparks in people, when I see those shining lights in boys, girls, men, or women who are, you can tell, that I can tell, have an openness to and a curiosity to be better in this world, whether it means for them, whether it means for their sister, whether it means for an employee of theirs, a colleague of theirs. Because no more is it okay for men to just not be part of the problem. They also have to be part of the solution.
Yeah.
And so bringing men on board to help them understand how they can be part of the solution is a critical piece of what I do as well in the work that I do. And the conversations that how can men advocate for us? How can they show up in a way that helps stop women getting interrupted 3 times more often in meetings than men? What does that look like? What does that sound like? So that they aren't then ostracized. But it's also going to take some courageous men. It's also going to take some courageous men. Because the interesting thing about, this topic is fascinating for me on so many levels. The interesting thing is we see also, and the data supports this, is that women also hold other women down. And it's like tigers, or is it lions or tigers or something that sometimes eat their young? Or there are some species.
Yes.
You've got the wrong.
I know what you're talking about. I don't know what animal it is. I hear it at least once a week, and I can't remember what animal it is.
Well, there are animals out there. Clearly, that is not my domain. That eat their own young or their own species.
Yeah.
That's what women do the same, and it's not really helpful then for the movement.
Yeah.
And so there will be some people that we cannot reach. I think we have to be aware that there are some who are so adamant in their beliefs, they will stay. Don't try to turn them. Look for the people who are curious and open and wanting to help. And one conversation at a time, we can start making a difference.
Yeah.
And it's holding others' hands. It's seeing those sparks in younger people and mentoring them, and offering them that as well, like in the workplace. And so formalizing. Oh yeah, I could go on and on about how systems then need to change, but that's the start of the conversation.
Yeah. And I love it. I remember I read, I don't know, where is it on my bookshelf? I'm not even sure where it is. But That's What She Said.
You read that? Yes.
It was so true to what I was experiencing. Like, I remember the interview that you had with the author, but Joanne Littman, and then reading it and going, oh my gosh, like I'm living this, and I've joked about it. I've made light of it, not realizing that I was living smaller than I was supposed to be. So yeah, I mean, what was it that when I was listening to Brené's podcast yesterday, but they were talking about like living in your largeness.
Yeah.
And it's so important. I think it feels very scary and uncomfortable if it's not something that you've been doing, but there are days that I don't, but there are days that I do. And I feel like I'm really like rocking on those days.
I love that. And I think that long gone are the days where feminism is about being anti-men. And I loved that, because that doesn't help anyone. And I think that's like why I never identified with the word feminism or being a feminist until I want to say it was 2013 when I read Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In,
Mm-hmm.
which I know has had a lot of criticisms, but she's also come out a lot since then to talk about how her thinking has evolved and whatever. But that was the first book that I'd ever read, and Joanne Littman's is the same. It's about, okay, friends, like these are just the statistics.
Yeah.
Well, that's not lay blame here, because laying blame is a waste of time, energy, and that's not the intent here. It's like, if this is where we are, though, because we need to know where we are starting from so that we can enter the coordinates into the GPS to get somewhere, to get to the right destination.
Right.
We don't know where we're starting. It's like,
right.
Well, how do we set the GPS? And so that's what I really, really like about that. It's like, let's solve this problem together.
Right. Yes. And it's like we are physiologically, biologically, physically different, right?
Absolutely. Thank goodness.
Yes. And it's like, yes, thank goodness. And it's like, for the longest time, it was like, no, we need to be the same. No. How do we use our strengths to make everybody better? And I love how the conversation has changed, because it was like feminism, like it felt like a dirty word to me for a long time. I'm like, I'm not going out like burning my bra or anything.
Yeah.
Hating on men. Where do I fit into this picture? And so I love seeing how the conversation has evolved so much that it's like, how do we create stronger partnerships where we are lifting one another up, where I feel supported in what I want to do professionally and personally, like my goals. And it's so much more powerful.
It is. And it really comes down to, I think, curiosity and connection.
Mm-hmm.
And when you are connected to others in a way that when you, so let's say, misspeak, are curious and ask a question that's maybe a little off from, I'm saying off, whatever that, kind of means, that we assume positive intent.
Yes.
And because then that creates, as you know, I'm writing a book, and I call it the Bridge of Discomfort.
I didn't even get to this yet.
I call it the Bridge of Discomfort, and it's like, meet me on the bridge.
Yeah.
Because I feel like then it's not I'm coming to you or you coming. I'm not going to your side. You're not coming to my side. Like we're both going to be a little uncomfortable as we figure this out. But because we care about each other, because we care about a better workplace. Because we care about our connection, because we care about a better world, which we need, good God grief, we need. I'm going to sit in this discomfort with you, and then we will come out stronger together.
Yeah.
And that's the power of great leadership.
Yeah. Yeah. So, can you give us a 2-minute synopsis of the book?
I could try. Yes. So it's called Humanizing Leadership. And it has 8 principles that revive the heartbeat of a robotic world. And essentially it's 3 pillars with the 8 principles. And it's a model of leadership that prioritizes the advancement of technology and humanity. So it's really an integrative approach of head and heart. And it's a model that, like through the book, will increase a leader's compassion, courage, competence, and character.
So this is what, if people listen to your show, then they know how much you love the intertwining of soul and science.
I do.
So now you're bringing this into book form.
I am.
Oh my gosh, I have goosebumps.
I know. Although I was editing my manuscript this morning, and I said to Jay in a really gruff voice, like, I'm not writing another book ever again.
Oh, you will.
It's like I'm birthing. I am 45. I feel like I'm 45 weeks pregnant, right? Like so overdue.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and it's uncomfortable, and I'm just ready for this thing to be birthed. That's where I'm at with the book.
I'm so excited for the book.
Thanks.
So I have 2 questions, as we're probably hedging overtime. I don't even.
I'm sure we are.
So if you could go back to any point in your life, I don't even care when, like, what advice would you give your younger self?
I would say something that I learned from my mom only recently. And this is the advice that I would give is follow your heart, but don't leave your head behind.
I feel like that's like the theme of your book-ish.
Yeah, you know what? There's lots of threads of my mom throughout my book.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
I just love hearing your relationship with your parents is just amazing. I love it.
Awesome. It was very fun having them on my show. Did you listen to the podcast that I had my sister on?
I have not gotten to it yet. No,
oh my
but I'm excited. I mean, I listened to the sound bites and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is going.
You're going to get all the feels then.
Yes. I can't wait. Okay. And my final question, if you could play DJ for 5 minutes for the whole world, what song would you play?
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
There's
no
wrong answers.
I know, but you also don't know that I am terrible at the names of songs, and but all you need is love by the Beatles.
Oh, I love it. It's a great song.
Yeah. Even though I am now divorced from the person that I married, that was the song that my dad chose to do out my dance with him on my wedding day. So my dad and I danced to that song.
Oh,
that's a very special memory for me. And that song rings true, I think, more than ever. Yeah,
it's more. Yeah, certainly. We should play that for everybody.
Right.
I'll see what I can work out. With world leaders.
Yeah, let me know how that goes.
Yeah, we need to play this song.
Yeah.
It'll make everybody feel better and remind them of what's really critical in life. So Let's do this. Oh my gosh. Well, this has just been a thrill for me.
Oh, Olivia, thank you so much. You're
I'm so excited that we had this time. And I know we kind of went all over the place, but I feel like there's so much that people can learn from you. I've learned so much. I've grown so much just by having you in my life.
That means so much. Thank you so much for your time and having me on the show.
Yes, thank you. And we'll catch up soon.